We'll have flying cars everywhere by the year 2000, they said. Back in 1939, at the World's Fair in New York City, there were several exhibitions that showed the future of technology, emphasizing on how advanced humanity would be by the turn of the century. With flying cars, personal robots, and other unimaginable advanced technologies, making life easy for everyone. And yet, here we are. More than 80 years later, with most of those things still not coming to fruition. Even after the moon landings in the 1970s, that supposedly were going to change the world forever, with interstellar exploration, among other things. Today, the world seems to have gone more backwards, rather than forward. There are still no flying cars. Still no personal robots to serve us. Trips to the moon and interstellar exploration have stopped. So, why haven't we been able to achieve those things that back in the 1930s seemed so close to becoming reality? The first answer to that is that nothing grows or advances in a linear pattern. There are always ups and downs. This applies to pretty much everything, including the development of technology. Some years we advance 2 steps forward. And others, we stay stagnant. And the following years, we may take several steps back, only to move forward again. That's how the cycle of nature operates, which is unavoidable in this physical world we live in. The second answer is that we have the issue of technology not being used for the greater good of humanity. Many types of discoveries may have had a positive beginning. But then, most of the time, they end up being used for selfish purposes. Like, for example, with the goal of gaining and imposing power. To control people. To win wars, for global domination, among other negative things. Such as fulfilling the desires of pure greed. Pure material fulfillment. And then, we have the issue of many types of devices that end up separating people, instead of bringing them together. Like people glued to their phones, unable to have a decent conversation with the person in front of them. And so, it's because of these and other negative uses that today, more than ever, we are at risk of going back to the medieval times. Whenever technology is used for negative purposes, people will start associating technology itself with as something bad, and try to eliminate it. This has happened before, especially during the forgotten times of Atlantis, then in ancient India, and then again in ancient Sumer and Egypt. Even during the times of the Roman Empire, people in Europe were much more advanced, before going through the period of darkness and ignorance that today we know as the medieval ages. So, today, with the still ongoing wars, the threat of nuclear destruction, global pollution, and societal decay because of social media. That's why today, we are at risk of ditching the technological advancements altogether, and go back a couple of centuries. Whether slowly or rapidly, the risk is there. This regression will also happen, especially because of our over-reliance on electric objects, and the inevitable solar flare explosions that will hit Earth one day, sooner or later. The Carrington event was the most significant recent one, that happened in 1859, and at the time, humanity was lucky that it only affected telegraphs and small electric devices. But today, it would be a totally different scenario. When another one of these events happens, which are overdue, the magnetic poles of Earth will also run the risk of shifting. And anything operating with electricity may cease to function. This event alone will easily set humanity back to at least the late 1800s, and millions of people with their lives depending on electric devices will cease to exist in the process. Not to mention other millions of individuals psychologically addicted to technology, going crazy and doing not so smart things, that may end their lives, as well as others around them. But, on a positive aspect, this is something necessary, and part of the human development. With us, humans, needing to focus more on spiritual growth. It's like a natural action taking place, that happens in order to bring us back to balance. A balance between the physical and the spiritual. After all the needed, radical changes take place, people will become united again and value social interactions and spiritual growth, and will better understand the need to join forces and come together as one in order to live in harmony with nature and advance through the challenges as a species. People will be sociable to their neighbors again and make a lot of true friends, like in the old times, before the technologic divide. They will also not be influenced by the negative forces of the mass media, and they may become easily aware of those negative things, and perhaps even eliminate them altogether. So, we see that on a broader, higher level, even this type of setback is following the laws of the universe, following the intended purpose of equilibrium. Because the misuse of technology, due to an immature spiritual level, will eventually take us back to a state where we can better assimilate things at our own learning speed. Things will change, and nothing will be the same again. All of the big corporations and institutions will collapse, and instead, in its place, we will find community-based businesses and many other developments. Pollution, overpopulation, overexploitation of resources will cease, and humanity will be spiritually united once again, in harmony with nature. This is the returning golden age, prophesied by many.